open discussion, because I'm sure everyone's going to have their own tactics or thoughts about how we.
I've invited. Sorry, Fat Salmon. I've invited quite a few of the guys that we know so far to speak. Let's try to always have the max amount of speakers, right? So people can just get in and freely talk as they can. So I sent the request to as many of you guys as possible. We'll get 10 guys up here at all times just for good dialogue and discussion, and it's not just a couple people talking.
Yeah, that's my one thing I don't like about Twitter Spaces, the way it's currently constructed, because I find it tends to be people kind of talking long format to a crowd, which I understand is useful sometimes, but I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to replicate the success of our Telegram chats, and that's kind of a free format where you get a little bit more people interrupting each other, asking questions about finer detail. I guess we can kick things off. 1 second. Okay, just before we start, I'd like to make everyone aware that this session is recorded. It won't, everything that's been discussed so far will not be recorded, but anything in the next 30 seconds will be recorded and published. So please consider that when talking about anything personal with yourself, because we are talking about onboarding, and obviously that subject does include people's personal experiences of maybe how they've tried to onboard people previously, or maybe they're trying to onboard friends or work colleagues currently. So let's make sure when we talk about these subjects that we don't include any names, details, dates, or places, because this is an unregulated market, so we have to be careful. Let's not use words like marketing. Let's not use words that could potentially in the future get us in trouble with certain regulatory authorities. We have to kind of change this game and work smart. So let's, instead of saying marketing, we say share excitement, things like that. So we'll start in 1 minute. Okay, everyone. It's 8 p.m. on the 19th of November in London, UK here. We did a bit of an impromptu Twitter space tonight. I think the PulseBitcoin community were kind of celebrating their recent price pump, and we thought, why not capitalize on this? Tetra has just released a first stage of its trading kind of platform. Well, I'm not going to misrepresent it. We've got some Tetra representatives here today, so we'll talk about that. But yeah, generally, the market's in quite an exciting kind of place right now. There's lots of speculation before we get to the next Bitcoin halving. Are we entering, well, is the bottom in? Are we now in the early stages of a bull market? So exciting time. A lot of crypto users are kind of exhausted now. They've kind of spent all their savings already. They've taken some losses, and they're feeling a bit deflated. You know, is the bull market ever going to come? All the people they got involved in crypto, they're not listening to you anymore because you're wrecked. So as we kind of enter this next stage of starting to make money again, how do we reapproach people that we maybe approached in the past? How do we keep our energy up? How do we educate people about crypto? Because most people's knowledge of crypto is pretty basic, and they generally don't have good things to say when we kind of talk to the average person. So how do we get people into our projects? Some of the questions were asked tonight. How do we get people to stay once they're in, aka like community stickiness? You know, once you've got market participants into your ecosphere, how do you actually make them stay? The idea of why build a Chinese restaurant and let the people spend their money in your restaurant and let them leave when they've eaten their fill? Is it not better to build a casino or a shopping mall, and once they've left that restaurant, you sell them lots of other products? How do we keep them? Well, we keep them through green candles. That is the face of whatever bullshit we kind of send out there. End of the day, human psychology is registered on the chart, and that is represented through green candles and red candles. So we have to constantly upgrade our products and our services through innovation. That is why people are in DeFi. Um, so we've obviously had an industrial revolution already in human history. Um, we're now going through, many would call, a technological revolution. And what we're experiencing as part of that technological revolution is the early days of a financial revolution. So anyone in DeFi right now, I think you're at least 2 or 3 steps ahead of not only the average person, market participant, but I'd say ahead of a lot of these guys working in these hedge funds, these banks, all this sort of stuff. People like this are going to be knocking on the private market, aka us, in the future, looking to see how their companies and their traditional markets can plug into the sort of tech we're talking about. So we welcome anyone. I think we've invited some people from Texan Token. We've invited some people from Tetra, Hexagons, Pulsecons, anyone else. So at this point, I would like to invite my co-host Benjamin and let him introduce himself.
Well, thank you, Fat Sammy. How's everybody doing today? So the topic at hand, how are we going to bring more people into crypto? Well, I think the governments and are doing a good job at that for us. I pay attention a lot to the news articles, and over the years I've developed a good way to plug into all that, and it's been real interesting to see it play out and be built more and more. Now, the thing is that most people behind the scenes, like the average person, has no clue what's happening. Okay. The amount of work and how all organizations and businesses and the structure of how our world looks today, right, in moving to blockchain and automation is absolutely amazing. And um, the average person has no clue. Okay. Now, the people in here, we have a clue, right? So we're early. Now, how do we maximize this opportunity that we have here at this moment, being ahead of the curve? Because the world is everything is going to automation and blockchain, right? What they do is they build it behind the scenes, right? And then they roll it out and, slowly get people there. They're doing a good job. So how do we maximize this opportunity? I think there's 2 reasons why we're generally all here. Is A, to make money, and B, to participate in a revolutionary technology and be on the forefront and move it forward. It's very exciting. Now, when you mix in the money opportunity in that, well, you have a recipe for explosive energy and excitement. So I believe that the government allowed blockchain and cryptos to take off, and I think they were behind it. And I think that the best way to do it, which they did, is to introduce it is in the form of like a cryptocurrency and having money involved in it. So people would build on top of that technology. Okay. Because once you interject that the money part of it, people go crazy. We all want to make money. Then you have all these companies building up all these things. So they've done a good job at that. Okay. And they got us right where they want us. They let us here, right? They control everything. Now, let's get back to the real question here, right? Like the 2 things is, how can we build technologies on the blockchain that are going to make the difference for our communities? And B, how can we profit off of that, right? That's really what it's all about at the end of the day. Okay. So I'd like to, you know, talk about that for a little bit here. And I think it's good to talk about the different projects out there that have that are innovating and pushing Pulse Chain further. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes in the next couple of years. So yeah,
So Benjamin, just to
Mhm.
interrupt it, not to interrupt, but just to get you to talk about that point, I think you're kind of moving into the idea, the second kind of 50% of the people we're trying to onboard is people already in crypto and people already in DeFi. I think that's a really key thing which you're talking about. But should we start things off simple and let's now talk about how do we onboard people into crypto, let's say that have never even bought crypto before. Let's start with that, and then let's move to how do we then onboard people that have participated in crypto, maybe through a centralized exchange or bought Ethereum or Bitcoin, maybe the odd NFT, but otherwise is kind of, I'm talking about the money that comes in every pump season, you know. Then the last question is how we then onboard the educated money, aka people in Pulse Chain. So VT, I'd like to introduce VT now at this point. VT, would you like to start things off with the topic of how we onboard people who let's say have got a lot of money. Let's say they've done very well through the traditional capitalist model. They may have purchased ETFs, stocks. They may have bought property. And they may be very skeptical of crypto just through reading mainstream media headlines, seeing the volatility of it and whatnot. And they don't see crypto. They see crypto more as a gamble. So introduce yourself and tell us your strategies of how you attract these institutional investors. I'm not sure if VT's there. I'll welcome Stuart, welcome. Yeah, so Stu represents Tetra along with Benjamin. Stu, just give you a recap. We're talking about how we introduce people to crypto. Number one group of people that have never purchased any sort of crypto in their life. Number two group being people that have perhaps participated through a centralized exchange. And then the third group is how we recruit people who are aware of DeFi, the advantages of it, and specifically Pulse Chain people.
Yeah, good to hear you, mate. Thanks very much for giving me the mic as well. Yeah, I think it's a difficult process to get people that you know and people that you love to on board, friends, family, whatever it may be, to get into crypto to understand what the benefits are. I think the thing that works for me is a constant erosion. It just highlighting why fiat currency and government legislation and control is like horrible. And when you see things that happen in the market, generally speaking, it makes it much easier and people kind of make their own minds up kind of thing. So it's not like force feeding, and it kind of needs to be a drawn out process, in my opinion. Whether you onboard people through a centralized exchange or whether you help them set up with a MetaMask or whatever it is, these are things that fundamentally need to. It's a process for an individual to go through to get to a point where the light bulb really sort of finally comes on and it clicks, So, and I think the other part of that as well is that individuals need to do their own research. They need to understand financial markets because it comes to the day-to-day grind. You're 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You go to work, you come home, you spend time with the family, you go to sleep, you get up, you go to work the next day. You've really not got time to process like everything that's going on. And mainstream media obfuscate a lot of that as well, which makes it really difficult. So it's not an easy process, but I find that the long drawn out process kind of works. And if you can plant the seeds, it helps with people a lot, and let them come to the realization themselves.
I 100% agree with that, Stu. I think kind of trying to force feed look, we make a lot of money in a very short time in crypto, and as we know, lots of products are constantly coming out and competing. So for any of our friends that are in the traditional markets and they look at us, they see us as kind of someone with ADHD. It's almost like we're in this high risk form of the financial market. It looks to the outside that we're constantly moving from this coin to this coin to this coin to this coin. But yes, that's because that's a healthy sign of a constantly evolving market. And yes, 90% of people that do come into this market, especially in a bear market, get wrecked. So yes, it does come down to education. And it does come down, as Stu said, is not trying to force feed your friend crypto too hard, having that gentle approach. So the idea that we're in a bear market now. What do we have on our side? We have time. So personally, I would like to see a sideways market in 2024. I think that will benefit all of our protocols, our tokens, or whatever you want to call them. So you can do something like you can introduce to your friends through social media, through when you're at the pub. Just constantly. Just don't bore them to death with it. Don't sit there and talk about crypto all night, but just kind of let them know what you're up to. Your excitement, sharing your excitement. I think I wrote some bullet points here. Let's have a look. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so onboarding. What do we mean by onboarding? And obviously we use onboarding surreptitiously because we don't want to use certain words beginning with M, because we're not certain financial regulation authorities. But let's break down what onboarding means. So number one, I would say you're learning yourself about a new opportunity. So let's let that marinate. We're learning ourselves about a new opportunity. So we're seeing an opportunity to make market, to take advantage of the market in our benefit. Point number two, potentially you're making gains on that opportunity. Either you haven't made them yourself, but you've seen other people make gains, or you're potentially starting to formulate future portfolio growth for yourself in the real life way. You might get to stage 3 where you initiate a personal financial action. That might mean interacting with the blockchain for the first time, buying a stable coin, buying a certain protocol or token. And then you may take a loss, but you still may see future growth opportunity. Or you might take a huge gain. So then step 4 is sharing that excitement. So you've already introduced the person to it early on. You've told them what you're doing. Now 3 months later, you're saying, "Oh, by the way, yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I'm not doing pretty well, but I think I'm going to do pretty well." Step 5 is making others curious about what you're doing. And then the hardest part for everyone is now we move from interest to a sale. So how do you secure their interest into participation? Well, I would argue you do that through confidence. So where do you get your confidence? I would argue you get it from statistics. Examples of statistics could be price charts, because we all understand that price charts are literally human psychology. They're showing people's faith in a project. And if it's a meme token, it's probably going to be very erratic, up and down. So if you're trying to get a 15-year-old kid that's got $200 and he wants something $3,000 in a day, then you might sell them a meme token. But if you're looking for someone who's a little more serious and has knowledge and a long-term outcome, you might draw their attention to more serious projects like DeFi projects. So you can show them things like user volume. You can show them statistics like mining rates, yield, averages,
Hey,
and
Fat
then close
Sammy.
to economics. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Fat Sammy. I just, wanted just to add something to that. I think the people that have come into blockchain the past few years, right? There's been more and more. Those are more, we've got all the gamblers here, right? The degens. We've maxed that out. The people that have money who are looking for money or looking for more money. I think thankfully we finally have arrived in blockchain where there's actually real utility that's taking place, and things that the average person will be coming to and are coming to use the blockchain. I think the biggest sales thing is to find we have to build things that that can make people's lives easy, and things that they're already using. Okay, so I think this bull run and the next bull run, right now and going to the future, we've arrived at that place. So the average person, yeah, that's what we need. We need tools, we need protocols. So, the best thing, like charts and all those things, my family and friends don't give a crap about like that type of stuff. And to me, confidence, like the people that are looking to make money makers, they'll take that. Like those people you can get to come in here, but that's not the average person. So I'm looking forward to the current stuff that's been made, right? So maybe we can possibly talk about all the different things that have come into blockchain the past couple of years and that are here that the average user would, you know, would trigger them. That's not the right word, to come in. So,
Ben,
well,
can I just add to that as well? Because I think that's a really, really good point, right? Is
thank you.
that how many individuals, even within this space right now, or people within the wider community that that are in blockchain, either number one for themselves or have convinced their family and friends to get involved. I think that one of the things that is like a big barrier to entry is the volatility. It's just part of the nature. It is what it is, right? And it is a gamble, and that does come with excitement if that's the way that you're natured, right? If you get excited about getting into new stuff, or you're intelligent enough to know that this protocol might do really well, so I'm going to throw some cash into it and hope it does well and come out good at the other end. I think there needs to be a sea change in DeFi where the public opinion is that they actually understand that self custody and all of the things that we know that DeFi brings are really important things. And it's not selling the meme coins. It's not selling that stuff. It's self custody. That I think is, if that narrative could be materialized in the mainstream media. I mean, it's never going to happen. We know that, right? But if it could be, and enough people started to speak up about it, that could really start to see a sea change in how people store value in terms of their finances. It's unfortunate because we all know, like, and it's like it almost feels like you're fighting a losing battle, because you've got traditional finance that have such a grip on not just the populace at large, but the ties with the government and everything that's like that as well. And then the mainstream media, that's the key part. It's that how do people consume that information? So how long does it take for the viral effect to actually get a grip of the average person? Now, Bitcoin is kind of that's the precursor for all of that, because people everywhere know that Bitcoin has went up and then it's went down. Do you think that the average person is sitting there in the sidelines thinking, I'm going to get into Bitcoin because I know the next bull run's coming? They don't understand it because the mainstream media do not promote it. And it comes back to what I was saying. You get up on a Monday morning, you go to your work, you come home, spend time with your family, you go to bed. You do that 5 days a week. It comes to the weekend, what do? You're fucking knackered. You're exhausted. You sit on your fucking arse and you do nothing, and that is life, So it's like, how do you get past that? It's
Well,
everything that.
I think you guys touched on that directly. Actually, what you're saying is and Benjamin was right for calling me out on that. Yes, that might work for people with money who understand charts. I'm talking traditional investors. They might understand volume. They might understand social media volume. They might understand the price chart, how much money you've got in liquidity. But you guys are right. What you guys are talking about is onboarding through product, through creating products, accessible products. And I think a part of that, we can look at previous success of that. What did Hex do to market itself to people? It used the idea of, I can't remember the exact phrase of it, but it's a high interest account in which you used to lock your money with the bank.
Certificate of deposit.
Yeah, exactly. So in a way, we have to copy certain models because the financial market has been there with billions of dollars put through it to advertise itself to normal people. So in a way, we have to replicate that, not try and reinvent the wheel. You know, there's certain technology which is or tried and tested methods that work through billions of dollars of research and time, which proves us how financial products are sold. So what we have to do is to deal with the volatility, we have to build a stable base of replicating all the tools and options that the user has on the financial market or on this new pirate ship we're building. So I agree with that.
Hey guys, we got Brandon here, and Brandon always has a good take on this, right? Brandon's given it a lot of thought, so, and he lives, his mind is always thinking in these terms. So, Brandon, did you hear what we were talking about? How long have you been here, and do you have an opinion on it?
I've just invited him to speak, but yeah, just so everyone knows, for anyone that's not kind of listening on the repeat, obviously you've heard from some of the guys from Tetra, you've heard from myself at PulseBitcoin, and Brandon is from Texan Token, but he's a well-known hexagon. Here he is.
Hey, Ben. Nice to chat with you again. Nice to have you. Nice being here, Sam. Yeah, I don't have all the context of the conversation. I just hopped in.
So we've basically been talking about onboarding. To give a rough summary to anyone that's joined, there's quite a lot of people come in since. So we're talking about onboarding. We kind of broke down what onboarding means to us as a community. We kind of broke it down in three parts. First of all is how we onboard people into crypto that have never purchased any sort of crypto. Second kind of area is how we onboard those users who have kind of participated in fake crypto, aka bought crypto on a centralized exchange. It may be in a bull run. I'm sure we all know lots of people that they say they bought $1 million of Bitcoin at 20,000. They sold it at 40,000, 50,000, and they feel lucky. And now they say crypto's dead. So how do we onboard those people? And then thirdly, how do we onboard people who are kind of crypto savvy, very knowledgeable? Still a lot of money sitting there. How do we onboard them into the legitimacy, maybe from Ethereum into Pulse Chain, things like that?
Yeah. Obviously, I've thought about this quite a bit, and it's interesting. I've tried to stop as much as possible thinking about onboarding people to get them to buy any of my things. So I would rather just teach them about the theft that's being perpetrated on them and maybe get their gears turning in that way to bait them into learning more about how cryptocurrency doesn't completely solve the problems of traditional finance and our financial system, but for the first time in history, it kind of serves as a hedge. So we have to lead with education, and not education in the sense, in my opinion, in the sense that I'm going to shill Texan to them. It's going to be much broader than that. It's going to be about cryptocurrency, basics of blockchain. They got to understand what it is. They got to understand how it works. They have to understand the potential that it actually has in the future.
So, Brandon, I think you're putting the cart before the horse, though, right? Because let's say I'm your friend, and you're trying to onboard me onto crypto, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna get me to pay attention to how blockchain works. What you're gonna have a hook which excites me. So your hook essentially is Texan independence.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else's hook may be another kind of general purpose. I think you have to excite them before you can educate them. If that makes sense.
Sure, but that comes with risks, right? So let's say you excite them. Maybe some people wants to excite them because they say they're going to make a lot of money. Well, what happens when they get destroyed in the bear market and their tolerance?
It's the get rich quick sort of scheme. That's the thing that puts most people off, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the tolerance. Like, who has that tolerance? people don't have as much grit as you do. They don't have as much grit as I do, or Stu, or Ben. So we can really put up with pain, but that's just one point. I don't think you were making that point completely. I think you were saying, what is the hook? If it's not going to
So
be money, what is it
I've
going to
got
be?
the hook. I got the hook. So the first thing that we see, since all of us live and breathe in this space, and we pay attention to news articles and everything, and I talked about this earlier, and this brings us to a good point, right? The masses don't see what's being built behind the scenes, right? We see it, right? Because we live in this space, how everything, BlackRock, I mean, people probably know about BlackRock, but all the innovations that are moving here. And the governments have they've strategically done that to build it up so they can bring it out to the masses. So I believe since we know what's going on, we have to tell them that. That's the hook. It's not the self-custody. Self-custody is really great. That's the second thing. That was great, Stu.
But
First we
the
have to.
problem, yeah, no, but the problem with that is that to your friends, right? And I'm sure everybody anybody that's tried to onboard anybody into cryptocurrency, you sound like a conspiracy theorist, right? Because everybody is spoon-fed the mainstream media and everything that they know, and they do the things that they do because they need to get forward in life. That's just how it works. So this is the difficulty that you've got to overcome. Is how do you get people to understand the fundamental aspects of what cryptocurrency offers, which is self-custody, the things that we know, right? All of these things. And how does that differ from traditional finance systems? And why is that better, right? To most people, that is intolerable. But they need to understand how the existing financial system works. Have you ever tried to explain fractional banking to your best friend, right? Who knows nothing about crypto, who works a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? It's like, and he works a labor trade. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, what are you talking about? Does he really care? Probably he does. I mean, what you could do is you could entice him into crypto through like some crazy like meme coin that's going to launch, and I promise you this is going to do 1,000x, right? And then it doesn't, and then you've lost him forever after that. So there's a really fine line of balance there on the fundamental
Stu, I
question
think
about
we've
what
all
this
been
space is
there.
about. How Yeah, exactly. That's the point. That is exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, but what we come back to is, I think, is an old sales 101 maxim is that people buy people. So you have to sell yourself first before you sell
I think there's another
anything
way
you're
to do
doing.
it too. I think you can convince people, even with bad sales skills. You can convince people with this reasoning to get to participate. Now, you can get them through the first door. Whether or not they want to keep going, that's up to them. But you can say, listen, think about all the things that you spend money on in a month, all the things that you throw money away. Get some exposure to cryptocurrency and just start there. And you might forget about it. You might come back to it. But what is the risk of not getting involved? That's about the closest that I get to shilling something personally. So that always gets them
So
in the door.
so I'm going to tell you guys where my head is on this. Okay, I've spent 11 years in crypto, and from the beginning, I approached it in these manners. Okay, and 95% of the time, what I've realized, I don't get anywhere in it. Okay. And the people that you take on, they, there's a lot to do and they end up wrecking themselves and different things, and it's hard. Now, the thing I believe that will get your family and friends more curious than anything is seeing you be successful and you make a bunch of money. Because when you make a bunch of money in it, you're excited and your family's excited around you. And that energy and seeing you do it is the proof, is the thing that you changing your life and your economic situation and rising above is the most powerful thing that can happen in your sphere. So that's why I believe for beginners, medium people, I say, don't try to get anybody. Don't do anything. Don't even waste your time on it. Okay. You ain't going to get nowhere. And there's a lot of responsibilities. And quite frankly, nobody knows what's going to happen. So put your head down, learn about crypto, learn about protocols that can actually potentially change your life and stay focused on that. And if you can do that and the cards play in your manner and your life changes because of the money, the family and friends around you are going to respond a hell of a lot better.
Are we talking about family and friends? I thought we were talking about building a broader community, get people involved in crypto.
Well, yeah. Let's move on to phase 2 of this debate tonight. So we not debate. Well, kind of everything in this sphere ends
Well,
up.
I'm curious. Can we clarify that point real quick?
Yeah. So I think at the start of this conversation, we were we said we were going to start off slow and talk about a general conversation of how we bring the average person into crypto. And when we say the average person, what do we mean by that? Well, people that maybe you work with, maybe they're not your family or your best friends, but
Those are all the people I'm talking about, your family and friends around you.
Yeah.
So how many people that are involved, let's just say like in a meme coin like Tangang, how many of those people are involved because they know somebody that's loaded in crypto in that community?
I would argue something like that is probably very, very few. I would say it's probably more of a kind of a degen play.
Yeah, so let's take it at the human level. Why are people showing up in that chat room? Why are they showing up for Twitter Spaces? What is it at a human level that community provides folks that keep showing up for?
Hype.
I would say it's I personally think that it is the human element is just community. People want to have a community. They want to feel like they belong somewhere. Now, hype certainly is a portion of that, but hype dies down over time if things aren't delivered on. But I think that these people, they want friends, man. I really believe that. Now, I think that's most of cryptocurrency. There's obviously a whole different subset of people out there who are looking at this as a strict investment opportunity. And they might be doctors or lawyers, or they might have done well in cryptocurrency in the past. But it's about the community, and it's about providing people value and not expecting them to give you anything in return. I think if you teach that culture, it's a slow grind, but it's going to build a solid foundation. It'll take you pretty cool places in the future. Now, that's one way to do this, and there's obviously quicker ways to do it, but that's my observation.
Yeah, which I guess is a beautiful natural transition to kind of the second phase of this this talk tonight. I wrote some bullet point notes, which, by the way, I learned to do from reading Brandon a few months ago. Set out some guidelines to how to host a successful Twitter space, and I still haven't learned half of it. I still don't know how to pin messages at the top on the board. But the next phase is, okay, so we've talked about how do we onboard people into our communities, but then also how do we keep them? How do we retain them? How do we create that community stickiness? Because any of us can, well, not any of us, but let's say you've done a good job, you create a meme token, you've got a lot of users, you've got a lot of traffic, got volume, a nice chart. Everything on the financial side might look great, but the next meme token comes along, goes after your target market. People, you're in a bear market, so you're kind of attracting people with a busy click finger. They're going to move on to something else. So how do you retain that value in your ecosystem? And obviously there's obviously mechanisms which we all use, like staking, basically any sort of a smart contract function that rewards people for maintaining their economic value in there. But But often something we overlook, and I think is something we should think about in this conversation, is whilst we spend so much time thinking about the tokenomics and the reward and the yield farming aspect of keeping people financially involved in our system, often our largest resource is new users, and not just getting new users and relying on the tokenomics to keep them there, but actually engagement farming your users. So making those users feel valued. So you might get for every 500 users you get, you might get one whale and two sharks. Obviously, only that one whale and the two sharks can really affect your price chart. But don't ignore all those other people who may have only put in $200, $300, $1,000. You want them to have a space and a community where you actually start to yield farm your users. So they should feel valued. They should have some sort of a reward system where they don't have to put money in, but they can still gain reward and almost get real kind of feedback from that on a local level.
I think Stu is
I'm
doing
dying to
that
speak.
organically better than anybody.
I can talk to that. I think that there was a whole lot of points there that my daughter just interrupted me, so I've lost my train of thought here. But so this is where I think that the biggest problem in crypto actually is that whether it comes to a meme coin or a utility coin or something that promises some kind of value, and if that value is derived from other people coming in behind you, so you're more early than the next person, therefore you are most likely to profit, is number one problem. Number two problem is whales, right? If you're in a position where you have been given tokens, you're part of the team, or any of this other stuff, that these are all really big problems as far as like an ecosystem that is trying to drive this industry forward effectively has. It's a negative effect because they've invested because they know that they want to then exit at a higher price and all of this kind of stuff. When it comes to I'm trying to temper my opinions on this just because of the space that we're speaking in.
Make it, dude. Talk about it, Stu.
Organic growth, Stu. Tell them about how you believe in organic growth and your approach on how you do it. I think that's valuable intel for people.
Okay. Well, I think the best way that I can demonstrate that is in the way that we've sort of progressed forward with Tetron, and ultimately we have no whales. We have nobody that holds a huge amount of supply that can dump. We had a very moderate sacrifice. We had enough of a sacrifice to develop the tools that we need to develop that we promised, and everything that goes with that, right? And what that provides is a really healthy ecosystem within everything that we're trying to do in Pulse Chain.
How did you do it? How did you do it?
By limiting, we done it by limit. We did it by limiting who could be involved and by how much they could be involved as well. So there was a sacrifice. It was a very low level sacrifice. $130,000, I think we got in our sacrifice, and then we had a private investment round which was severely limited per individual that wanted to get involved, to make up the rest, if you like, to get us to where we are now. So by having control over these elements and having true DeFi principles in place, what you do is you actually protect everybody that gets in at a point. And if you're providing a utility, you're providing a service, you're providing something that people want to use, you charge a small fee for that, that's great, right? And what we have is a revenue share model. So what we're doing is we're trying to provide services that make blockchain interaction easier, onboarding easier, all the stuff we're talking about. What can you do to sort of break down the barriers of entry to get into blockchain? And if there are small fees associated with that, then it's a revenue share model. So I strongly believe that revenue share models, which you see in traditional business, as the key to, it's going to be the next step, I think, and regardless of what you're doing in blockchain. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're providing a service, you're doing something that's new, it's innovative, that is like a step forward, right, to help to drive the whole movement forward, and there is a small fee associated with that, and people that participate within a token or a protocol pay that fee, and you as a holder have shares within that protocol, and you get a revenue share. This is a great model for helping to sort of harbour adoption. So, I think that's what I believe. That's and the organic growth aspect of that is great, because there is no moon math, there is no crazy APYs, and
No
all of
hype.
this stuff. No hype as well. Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. So it's kind of like the railroads are still being laid out here, and that's the way I see it. So if we can kind of help to lay out those railroads, and we can help to build the shops that sell the shovels and the the tools that the diggers need to go and fucking mine the gold, it's like this is part and parcel of the process. I don't think that blockchain overall is there or where it needs to be to compete with traditional finance, but we need to keep innovating, and I think that's the key to success.
So what would your advice be for 99% of crypto that's trying to onboard people and keep them around that aren't involved in a utility token that is able to charge a fee? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a few different elements to that. I mean, I think that the number one element is that the protocol that you are trying to onboard into, does it have something of value? Does it have so here's the thing, right? If you were an early investor in a new meme coin that was supported and that was backed by the greatest founder in the whole of crypto, right? Doesn't matter what it is. Let's just like take those two elements, right? And that you go and tell all your friends, you go and tell all your family, it's like this is guaranteed. It's gonna go to the moon, right? I've invested. I've went all in, right? It's still a gamble for these individuals, right? These people that you're trying to onboard. It's still a gamble. When we get to a point in crypto where things are less of a gamble, I think that that's when the onboarding then starts to happen like a lot better, because there's less risk. And I think that most people in crypto are happy to take specific elements of risk, but 99.9% of the general public are not prepared to take that kind of level of risk, because they need to make ends meet. They need to, there's a lot of people in crypto that still need to make ends meet as well, that are here because they are taking risks, right? So it's like, what risk are you willing to take? And I think that is, if we can remove some of that risk and help people to understand what the core principles of crypto are all about, i.e. self-custody, all the stuff that we know about, right? That is a different sales pitch to, you need to get into this token because it's going to moon. Is it going to moon? It might, right?
What about the 90? So I'm going to press you a little bit on this. So I hear what you're saying, and it makes complete sense. But the 99% of crypto out there that's existing, how do those people maybe do things a better way to help adoption on a larger scale?
It starts with what Stu said at the beginning, right? Where there's no whales, a controlled sacrifice. So, okay, what if you're past that point, right? Like each one of these steps is crucial.
So we're talking about a foundation of fair distribution, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say as well, by the way, I mean, I'm not totally opposed to the whole sacrifice model. I do think that it kind of has had its day. I think that we've seen a lot of nefarious sort of activity with specific projects, so I'm not even going to go there with names or anything. But there's things that have happened that have made a lot of people really unhappy. I know that there's core fundamentals that underpin that in terms of why that could be a good model. Buck spoke about it recently in a Twitter space as well. You should go and listen to that if you want to kind of delve into that. I don't think this is the right space to speak about it, but it's a difficult balance to strike, and it's kind of like, yes, a fair distribution model is really important, especially if you want to have longevity within a project. I think that if you can have a fair distribution model with something that provides value, that's gold in terms of crypto. And if more people were doing stuff like that, then we could see some sort of rapid succession. And just come back to what Brandon was saying, like, what does it mean for a lot of other people? It's kind of like, how risk adverse are you? What is your investments? Where do you hold value? Is it in the stock market? Is it some in crypto? What is your spread? And it's good to have a spread across all of this different stuff. I think that the most difficult thing to portray to people that are not in crypto is what is the value of crypto. That's self-custody. That's all the things that we know about crypto. So it's kind.
We go back to volatility again. That's the biggest argument against us. Whenever we talk about storing wealth or kind of anyone bringing money into crypto, their first argument is volatility, isn't it?
Well, volatility, as we know, is good for people in both directions. So you can try and time the market, or try and sort of identify good projects, or blockchains, or whatever it is that's happening. What is the new technology? Are you going to invest in that? Are you going to ride out the storm and hope that the gamble pays off, that this is the next best thing? And everything that goes with it, So, yeah, I mean, I've got some pretty strong opinions on this, and I'm not going to,
No, so thank you so much for joining in. Just in case anyone's interested, I'm trying to follow Brandon's lead here, and we should take a quick pause here to say that please share this space right now. It's really helpful. Even share the repeat once it's over. Let's have these sort of conversations going, because I feel like we fall into this weird thing of an echo chamber. We all experience that. We get lazy. We have our Telegram chats, and yes, that's really good to build a community. But are you getting new people into those Telegram chats? Are you creating new products? Are you not being lazy? Are you constantly trying to find ways to bring new people into your Telegram chats? What we're trying to do is now go on Twitter a bit more. It's a bit more scary, because you get kind of all these kind of black swan events happen when you're on a Twitter space. But how we expanding like that? At this point, I would like to invite. We've got a couple of speakers here who haven't spoken yet. You got a picture of a duck there. Identity block. Welcome. Yes. Please go ahead.
Hey fam, how's everyone?
Good, thank you, man. What's in your mind? Please go ahead.
No, I'm just here, like, just listening to the different stories, trying to figure out if it makes sense of what I'm listening to. The last few months, we've been hearing a lot of narratives of what's going to bring in new users into a ecosystem, and some of us we go a little bit deeper than just listening to the streams or listening to what people say on Twitter. We actually go in, we verify the code, we make sure that what's being told, it's what's happening. The liquidity narratives from bots and all this stuff that we've been hearing for the last 10 years, from the Willy bot in Mt. Gox and on forward to BitConnect, and they continue to like wash, rinse, repeat, and being launched like they're new stories. But it's just the same narratives, that we've been listening to. And then at the end, all you have to do is just look at where the money's going. Is the money going into Pulse Chain, or is the money going into Binance Wallet 14? So that's the only thing that I look for. So yeah, that way I can get rid of the noise, and I just look for the facts, because this just Twitter and X, whatever it's called now, holds a lot of narratives, but it's all about it's what's being said. Is it working? In my opinion, it's not working. We've been repeating a lot of errors. Um, for example, if you're in sports, you practice. You know, in the off season, you practice. In the quote unquote bear market, it would be like our off season, right? So you practice to make sure what worked can work in the future. If you continue to do the same errors that you've been doing you know, when you made some mistakes, you're going to continue to make the mistakes. You know, you're going to continue to strike out. You're going to continue to fumble. You're going to continue to make mistakes. So I guess that's my main point to add. I've noticed that some people were giving us bad advice for the last 2 years. Some people were giving good advice, and then they were getting gate kept or shut down, censored, whatever you want to call it. And I think that some of the people that got bad calls, some of the people that gave bad advice, some of the people that got the community wrecked or in the bad direction, that should be called out. I think that we should be loud about that. That way we focus on bringing in what worked in late 2020, early 2021, that got us to that all-time high in 2021, and it'll get us again there. But I think that we need to focus on not making the same mistakes. I think that we need to focus on new strategies that are going to bring in this new users. But I feel that in the last year we've been focused